My name's Chris Manners. I'm the co-owner of TBS Boats. We're based here at Pentonhook Marina. We have an office at Bray Marina and one on the Hamble at Mercury Marina. We're here in October to do a filming for MDL to show river conditions, cruising river conditions and flood conditions, and what to do on locks when the locks are not manned and the lock keepers are off duty. Today we are going out on a windy. The river conditions have just come off red boards since Monday. We're now on yellow boards, which will show the river flowing at around 2 knots, and we'll be able to show you what to do in flood conditions, how to access a lock, how to leave a lock, and what to do when the lock keeper is off duty. So we're now approaching Pentonhook Lock, and you can see the weir stream is flowing quite strong. There are 1.5 weirs drawn, whereas on Monday of this week all 5 weirs were drawn and the water was flowing at around 3 knots. Now I would suggest the water's flowing at around 2 knots. And as we approach the water flow now, you'll see how it takes us off to port. And if you're in an outboard, if you're in a smaller boat with an outboard engine, you would struggle going upstream in these conditions. Currently we are on yellow boards, but 3 days ago we were on red boards, and that means navigation is suspended to all pleasure boaters. So we're now approaching upstream of Pentonhook Lock, going into the lock. It says self-service, but there is the lock keeper on duty, so he will operate the lock for us, but usually on self-service you would operate the lock yourself. But we can talk you through what he's going to do and what buttons to press when you get to the lock. So manual handling yourself is not a good idea on a single-handed boat. You should really have 2 people aboard at any one time. So one person can hold the stern line and one person can hold the bow line. But for this purpose we're alone, so I'll tie off onto the centre cleat and then show you how the lock operates. So we've now tied up into Pentonhook Lock, and we're going to operate the lock upstream by closing the gates and closing the sluices, and then walking to the other end of the lock and letting the water go by opening the sluices first. So to start with, we will close the gates. So now we've closed the gates, we are now closing the sluices, which stops the water flow from upstream into the lock. Once the sluices are closed, we'll walk to the other end of the lock and open the sluices to let the water out. So we've now walked to the other end of Pentonhook Lock. We're going to open the sluices to let the water escape, so the water in the lock will drop, allowing us to go to the lower level. Now when the lock is unmanned and it's on self-service, there's a 3-tier process to this sluice opening, and as you'll see you can go, it lasts for 2 minutes between each tier, so that you can't rush the lock and let the water go too quickly, causing damage to your vessel. So we're now on level 2 of opening the sluice, and it lets us open it again after the 2-minute wait, and that'll let another 33% of the water go from the lock. Okay, so we're now opening sluice 3. This will take another minute or so, and then the lock will be empty and ready for us to exit. So the water has now left the lock, and we can now open the lock gates by pressing gates open, and as you'll see they open quite quickly. And once fully open, we can then get back on board, leave the lock, and on leaving the lock, what you should do is tie up the other side if you're on the lock on your own, go back in, and then shut the lock gates and the sluices, because all locks should be left empty if you're travelling through the lock alone. So the etiquette on the River Thames is, on overtaking, is not really to overtake. The speed limit is 4 knots, which is 8 kilometres an hour, which is a fast walking pace, and therefore all the boats are travelling at the same speed. As long as you pass anybody else port to port, left to left, then you'll be in safe water and you'll be clear of any danger. So as you saw today on the water, we got some wonderful scenery in autumn. The leaves are dropping and the river is flowing, but moving through into the summer, the river is a fantastic place to cruise. You can go and view Hampton Court, which is a wonderful place by water, up through Windsor and see Windsor Castle, and up further into the Thames. There's so much scenery, so much beauty on the Thames, which you often don't get on the coast.